Hey guys, Jake G33 here. I'm going to tell you this telekinesis story. It was a weird thing. Nonetheless, here's what happened. As I was a kindergartner, um, and I was really strange throughout those years, which all of us are. Um, we're still trying to figure out who we are at that point. At that point, I didn't know anything about ghosts, didn't know anything about anything. Okay. Uh, it was just one of those things where I had a really high imagination, and with that imagination, I had some dreams that were absolutely wild as wild could be. Um, Ended up having a bunch of night terrors and stuff, wake up completely screaming, and wake up in sleep paralysis and things like that. Um, in my dreams, come to find out that some of the times what I was doing was they call it what they call astral projecting, which for some people it's flying around. For me, it is jumping from like city to city, almost like the Incredible Hulk, jumping from city to city or state to state. Uh, it was pretty terrifying because once you hit the ground, you go back up again, and coming down, it was like you were getting uh, this jolt of like fear to hit the ground, but as you were coming down and realized, oh wait a minute, I'm not going to get hurt off this, then just hit the ground, jump up again, and keep on going. It was that was weird. That was some wild stuff there, and I did that all the time whenever I was a kid. Didn't know what I was doing. Just that's what was happening. That's what I found out later on. Oh, wait a minute. That's what I was doing. I was astral projecting, and at the same time, uh, I was going like to different towns and stuff. These were towns that I knew. These were towns that I had only been to maybe a couple times, but then I ended up moving away and going to like different states and stuff whenever I was astral projecting. It was interesting, very interesting. So then let's talk about this kindergarten story. So in kindergarten, um, I was watching this movie with my parents. While I was watching this movie, it was called Phenomenon from with John Travolta. Um, in that movie, he has a brain tumor, and in his brain tumor, it winds up giving him access to the rest of his brain, giving him powers such as telekinesis. Now, you don't know what telekinesis is, it's the ability to be able to move things at your will. You would see this with people like Jean Grey from X-Men. You'd see it with Lucy from Lucy. And like I said, John Travolta in whatever character he is in Phenomenon. In one of the scenes in Phenomenon, he is sitting at a table and he's looking at a pencil or a pen, and he's looking at it and he's just going like this. And while he's going like this, that pencil's going back and forth. He's not touching it at all. And this man asks him, he's like, "How are you doing that?" And he says, he gives him a very long explanation as to how he's doing it. But nonetheless, I see him doing that as a kindergartner. And my imagination, I didn't realize that you weren't supposed to be able to do that. I just thought that that seems like something anybody should be able to do. Just point your finger and, yeah, I can do that. And I even told my parents, I was like, I can do that. And they just shrugged me off and thought that, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, Jake, yeah, let's see it. And the rest of the day, I spent trying to make a pencil or a pen on my coffee table move like that. Spent the rest of the day trying to do it. Um, Unfortunately, during that time, never happened. Didn't happen. Um, it wasn't until the next day, went into school, um, sitting there with all my school friends and all that, and I'll never forget there was a kid on my left, and his name was Benjamin. I don't remember what his last name was, but I do remember his face. I remember his hair. He had this curly, crazy hair. And This kid was sitting next to me, and while I was sitting there, ended up getting into, I think it was speech, which speech, or no, it wasn't speech, it was spelling. Spelling at that age, I actually got a U in a kindergarten because spelling, I didn't care. It was one, two, three letter words and stuff, and I just thought it was a waste of time and didn't pay attention to it at all. Um, yeah, I got a U. And so, but then after that, I ended up having to burst that grade up and easily got an A. But it was a waste of time. I was sitting there, and while I was sitting there, I let my brain just like drift away. Um, I wasn't thinking on that pencil whenever I looked at it, but I just, it was like my brain was drifted away, didn't care where I was at, what I was doing, and then I just looked at my pencil, pointed at it, and just started going like this. And the moment I did, that pencil started moving, and it started going back and forth. And as I was sitting there and watching it, I was thinking to myself, yeah, I knew I could do this. That's not an issue. That was a non-issue that I was able to do this. Wasn't until I turned and looked over at Benjamin. And whenever I turned and looked over at Benjamin, his eyes are bugging out of his head. And he's like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now? What am I seeing? And the moment I saw him do that, I look over at him and I smack down on the pencil. And then after that, it was like my brain subconsciously realized what I was doing was something that people can't do. That for whatever reason I was making that happen, and that I wasn't supposed to be able to do that. And it was like at a subconscious level, my brain realized that. And the moment that it realized that, I first off, I didn't want to try to do it again, because if I didn't want to be the weird kid. I didn't want to be the weird kid. I wanted to be the kid that was fit in, the kid that was able to be liked. The fact is that whenever I was a little kid, quote unquote little, I was technically the biggest kid you could have ever seen in kindergarten. I was huge. I towered over everybody else, and so people were already kind of afraid of me, especially with me doing like wrestling and stuff. I'd started wrestling at 5 years old, and my dad was was the coach, so I was in a wrestling family forever. People thought that I could hurt them, and honestly, I was real quiet, didn't really talk to people. So I wound up being the big scary kid in kindergarten. Then that kid saw that, and then that just adds another layer on top of it. So it ended up being really weird. It got to be one of those things where after that kid became my friend. He realized, like, if there's somebody I'm going to be friends with, it's going to be this guy. So, there's that. Come to find out that these psychic waves in your brain, they call them theta waves. That's what they associate them with. But you trigger these when you're pretty well doing nothing, which is very odd because it's like whenever you want the will to happen, it's not going to happen. It's only whenever your brain goes into like these nothing states where you you aren't thinking about anything. It's like whenever you're in the middle of a classroom and you're staring at one spot on the floor. You have no reason to be staring at that spot, but for whatever reason, your eyes are fixated on that spot. There's nothing going on. People call it daydreaming. It's more than that. There's something more there, and some people would call it like highway hypnosis and things like that, where you drive down the highway for 20 miles, and yet for whatever reason you completely black out what has happened within those 20 miles, but for some reason you stay right in between those lines and you have no issues. It's it's weird. It's a weird thing that happens there. And then well, actually, let's. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. So, um, yeah. My next story I'm gonna tell you. It'll be. Oh, I'll give you one of my ghost stories the next time around. Uh, yeah, my life gets quite a bit odd. Once I wind up hitting that 12 years old. So, um, stay tuned. Come and check out what happens. I'm Jake G33. My stories are going to be genuine. They're going to be honest. And I do got a giveaway going on. If you want to go back to the other video, it's Creepy Trending Videos by Slap Tam. Um, go to that video and you'll see all the description of what you need to do to be able to win that. Uh, yeah, it'll be a good time. Guys, hope you have a good rest of your weekend and stay creepy.